Okay, so there are a few reasons of why we should study geology. And those we're going to cover in the next, 4 or 5 slides or so. So one of those reasons being obviously that we all share the earth. And the better we know a place where we live in, the better that we can develop ourselves in it. So as an example, let's take this one. You have to be in a hotel room for a month straight. So you can either be in a hotel room in a different hotel for the month that you're there, so each hotel being very different from each other, not necessarily a chain, but rather kind of like a B&B. So every night you're changing hotel rooms, or you can be a whole month in the same hotel room. So if you think of the first scenario where you're changing rooms, it would take you a fairly long time every time you change hotel rooms to find out where the toiletries are, for example, where your bathroom is. I don't know if it's happened to you, but many times I go to the wrong side of the room when I need to go to the bathroom if I keep switching hotel rooms. Where the dining room is, which day you would get perhaps eggs instead of gravy, I don't know. Things like that. It would take you a little bit of time to figure these things out. Perhaps you wouldn't be able to save money on water usage by reusing your towels because you are switching hotel rooms every single night. Rather, if you were in the same hotel room for the whole month, you would be not only able to, again, save money on the laundry and know exactly where things were, but perhaps you would even help others know where the things were, perhaps where the gym is, or where the pool is, or when it would be closed for cleaning. So you would not only save time by knowing things yourself, but also help others save time and resources from your knowledge. So if you think about that same scenario based on Mother Earth, if we are able to understand the place where we live in, which is our planet, we are more likely able to develop ourselves in it and help others develop themselves in it as well. So that is one of the reasons that we share the earth and we should help each other get through as a species. The second reason that I want to point out here is because we will then know about the natural hazards that can occur and how the interaction with us humans can make them potential disasters or even catastrophes. So we will hopefully find out how to avoid these natural hazards and how we can help educate and help provide relief to areas and species that have been harmed by these natural hazards. So another reason to study geology is because, as I had said before, the reason that we are actually still alive is because we've been able to use the resources that have been at hand, resources that have been both biological and also geological resources that the Earth has given us. So some of those resources, for example, being oil and natural gas, which started developing in the 19th century, these resources give us things such as energy, gas for vehicular transport, plastic products, amongst other things. However, unfortunately, these resources are non-renewable resources, meaning that there is a finite amount of these resources on Earth right now. And the ones that are currently being produced, that are being on the making, will take millions of years before they are good for extraction. So as some of you may know, or perhaps you don't know, the way that oil and natural gas is formed is by organic material that has undergone burial and a lot of time for it to develop, high temperatures that make it rework itself, and then eventually being placed in a specific area that it's good for extraction. So this whole process takes many, many years to occur, and the conditions have to be just right for it to happen as well. So the current organic material that is decaying, so all the plant and all the animal material that is currently decaying and being buried under the soil, will take millions of years to get to the point where we can use it for extraction. So that resource of oil and natural gas is a non-renewable resource, at least in the lifespan of humans. So there are many other resources that we need to take advantage of in the near future so that we still have access to energy and vehicular transport, for example. Some of the other resources that we have at our reach are things such as coal, which is used for energy use, and it's there portrayed in the left image of the screen. We have things such as solid rock that are used for decorative uses and for building purposes. So in the image in the middle, you see they're carving out a bunch of marble that is later being used for a bathroom tiling, for example, very fancy one. And then we also have pulverization of rock that is later reworked for building purposes such as drywall making. So you're seeing the gypsum being extracted there towards the, I guess, top right image of the screen that is later used for drywall making. Excuse me. And then in the bottom image, you see that there's also copper mining taking place. And then the copper that results from that mining is being used for wiring purposes. So the wire gives us many, many uses in electrical and mechanical fields. So definitely all resources that the earth provides us with. And all of these ones are non-renewable, meaning again that in the lifespan of humans, it's unlikely that they will be renewed. They will have enough time for growth and for development as we continue to be alive and are able to extract them. So that's why we need to use them properly and need to find ways in which to mitigate their loss. And we study geology for understanding the threats that the earth poses on us as natural hazards, and also the resources that we may get from it. And how we make these resources viable for infinite amounts of times, or at least as long as we hope to endure as a species here on Earth. But we also study geology because not only do we need these resources now, and not only those natural hazards will be, are threatening us now, but we will also need the resources as we get as our population grows in the future. So our population is increasing at about 70 million people added every single year, or at least that's the rate that it's increasing at right now. And so with more people, we also need more resources. And with more people occupying the earth, it is also more likely that more of them will also be exposed to different natural hazards because they're occupying a greater surface area. So our growing population is driving us to want to make the world a suitable home. A home where things are functioning, where the roof is not caving on us, and where the pantry is fully stocked. And by that I mean where we have enough resources to get by for all of the people here on this home that we call Earth. So the graph on the top right is showing you the rate at which people or the population growth is increasing by continent. So you have Asia and South America growing at the fastest pace, and the other continents at a slower rate, but still growing nonetheless. So there's definitely a growth. The graph on the bottom shows you the world energy consumption throughout the last 2 centuries or so. So we see that most of the energy obtained before the 19th century was from biofuels. And by biofuels, I mean things such as wood. So all before the coal, oil, and gas were found, we used for the most part wood as our energy resources. So once coal, natural gas, and oil were found, we relied mostly on them, even up until now, for energy use. And with this finding of those resources, we also see that the energy consumption also went up. So not only did we find new resources, but now we are able to spend more energy, and that helped a lot for population growth as well. So the better our life was by energy usage, the more the population grew. Granted, there were some medical advancements that made it possible so that the mortality rate was not as large, but those medical advancements themselves were influenced by the energy findings. So things kind of go hand by hand. So now in the recent past, we have found other sources of energy, such as nuclear, hydro, solar, wind, and even geothermal energy. All of these resources are renewable, meaning that they should behave as an infinite, if you would, source of energy, provided, again, that there's no planetary processes that distort these. These sources, I think, will be the key in the coming future when we can no longer extract more non-renewable sources, or when it becomes too detrimental to the earth and to ourselves, to our health, to continue to extract these non-renewable resources. So some of these renewable sources, such again as hydro, solar, wind, geothermal, are very costly right now to get in comparison to the amount of energy that they're producing, which is primarily why they're not used in very high amounts yet. But as technology improves, we are making it cheaper and cheaper to obtain the energy from these sources. So even with our growing population, many of these people that are coming into the earth are also the ones that are making great new discoveries towards a viable future for humankind and for other species. So I think that even though there's a growing population and there's a need for more resources, these people are also the ones that are coming up with a solution for our problem. So that's a great relief. So again, those main things are some of the reasons why it's so important to know about geology, even not to know deeply into it, but just enough so that we understand, again, what threats we are against here on Earth, what resources we have and we could use, and how we must, do so appropriately, and how this growing population is going to affect the rates at which we use these resources and the rates at which we are going to see these natural hazards affecting us. Okay, so now we're going to go into the development of geology.